This is Morning Perfect Bass. I'm Van Velding, and I'm going to work a little bit on my perfect bass each week. And after, it's dark again. And after a few months, we are going to see how much progress I've made. I'm going to be careful here. Friday morning, I was fortunate enough to see it. For this visually surprising, emotionally affecting summer smash, the music video for Taylor Swift's Me featuring Brendan Urie. The thing is offensive to the senses, don't get me wrong. It deserves every one of the 41 million viewers it has gotten in the last 20 hours. What the fuck is that? Fucking God. Alright, fine. Equally efficient. Oh, my job today is I'm going to build these walls. That wall over there, and then this wall up here. I might enclose this a little bit depending on how we go. I may try to throw up a farm right quick. I'm pretty sure I can just eyeball the farms because I've built this around a specific farm pattern. Anyway, back to Taylor Swift. Again, I think it just deserves all of the views that it has gotten, kind of the same way like a really sweet carcass has earned all of the maggots, converting it into maggot poo. And that's like, I mean that in a good circle of life kind of way. Like, it's not bad, it's just another product in a food cycle of entertainment that makes me personally sick when I consider taking part in it to any degree, except to the degree of like a status affirming cultural criticism. It sounds like ABC from the Jackson 5, like it got slapped with a thesaurus, then thrown in a shredder. In that, the two represent a literal flatline of pop culture across 49 years. Lyrically clever, musically excellent, and well performed in generally. Me and ABC are the musical equivalent of the empty-headed Hot Pockets with faces that straight dudes seem to think about a lot when they touch themselves at night. Someone looked at this and thought they were just gonna make it rainbows, like parents who don't understand all these new gender rules but who do want to respect their new baby's choices. So while rainbows are a symbol of diversity, because fuck you, it's obvious why, what the hell else is the lesson of otherwise identical forms made distinct from one another on a single axis where their equal division is arranged to create an effect greater than any lesser combination of them could have made? God damn. It immediately becomes a celebration of uniqueness as specialness, which, boy, ain't that a thing to roll out across the living room carpet. I mean, actually, first, before we get to any of that, there is this, and I'll say it, shallow and pedantic tropery where every noun said in lyric is then shown visually. Like, motherfuckers, that is kindergarten music video making. And I don't mean like, oh, it's uninspired, or oh, it's basic, or oh, it's so last decade. I mean, if you turned a crayon drawing of a house in for your master's thesis as a visual design student, and they asked about it, and you said, it's a house. That kind of kindergarten music video making, as unacceptable for concepting a video as singing off key would be for singing in one, or getting a boom mic into the shop would be for directing one. I'm about to tear this video up. But this is the only part of that tearing up that is actually genuinely telling you that a part of this video is bad. It's bad to do that. They do it for like 10 to 15 seconds and they move past it. And it's baffling. It is a completely different part of the video that feels like they didn't know how to start. No, it feels like they didn't know how to get from where they started and they knew they were going to be to where they knew they were going to be. It is baffling and it is shitty. So anyway, Tasteway here gets bedecked in a uniquely yellow suit and tells us that there's no one else like her. And guys, that is not how Rainbows is. And Brendan Urie joins in with the black and white paradigm before eventually descending into a montage of catchy, well-choreographed dance and what I can only call the two of them doing big face numbers in settings so strongly colored that a chroma key change would turn the video into that trippy time travel sequence from Star Trek 4, where all the faces are floating in the white space, except all of the faces are just these two. It was the one with the whale. Star Trek 4 is the one with the whales. I don't hate these people, even when they're shoveling faux deep drivel into the open veins of American culture. I've seen enough of each of them to believe that they use their wealth and platforms in ways that are otherwise artistically commendable and socially responsible. And then I see them unironically doing Yo Gabba Gabba. Actually, no. Yo Gabba Gabba is pretty good. Okay? And then I see them unironically doing, I don't know, Caillou for the pubertally disadvantaged. And damn, son, I can't even do shallow pandering, much less get the fuck up and do shallow pandering at a Grammy Award winning level. This is appreciation for craft. I wouldn't give a fuck about a CGI rainbow snake that explodes into CGI rainbow butterflies. I couldn't do it. I lack the skill and the emotional tenacity to pull that off. In any alternate universe, it would still be impossible for me to say, make it rainbows, because we're going to make it look like nothing else. And then still, after that, to have the creative gall to step on the neck of the PA who points out that has nothing to do with the themes of this song, that consists of both a single emotionally masturbatory phrase echoed in a tin can and the end result of my second grade French class. I could never take that shovelful of shit, slap it onto my face as pancake makeup, eat the difference whole, and then smile so wide that half the idiots are dumbfounded by the sincerity of it, and the other half can only score points by mocking it directly. It's pathetic, it's farcical, it stimulates the low impulses, it collapses under its own weight with a speed born from a bored indifference. It is the Titanic of being able to take itself seriously. But it is not going to sink, because it is the exact kind of thing that we as a people value, to the tune of millions of dollars. I'm supporting Elizabeth Warren, like, not forever, but definitely now and definitely strongly. I was leaning towards her because she just seems, like a politician, like she's doing politic things. Anyway, I'm behind her now. She is the first and loudest voice I see calling for the impeachment of the president. The goal right now should be nothing less than wedging enough Republican senators to that purpose and removing him from office. Every candidate claiming that we can wait until 2020 is too stupid and too complacent to understand the threat that Donald Trump poses. Nixon was impeached, by the way, for the same or less than the Mueller report has revealed: obstruction of investigation by promising witnesses, extending the protections of the office of the president to other witnesses, lying to the public. I was going to link an article from the Intercept, but Intercept frontman Glenn Greenwald has called people obsessed and accused folks of losing their minds over the Russian conspiracy investigation, and being more outraged about the characterization of other news services than the story itself loses the Intercept some credibility from me. Further, the article itself is an irrational pleat that has none of the roadmaps that it claims. No word of getting a case past the Senate, no mention of appealing to conservatives for backing. I've never seen a reputable source of political analysis abandon so fully the idea of political consensus. I will link it, but it's garbage. And when it comes to Warren, yas, queen. In brighter news, we may have celebrated life, we may have created life. Fuck me. Cornell engineers have created machines, and that they're made of biomaterials that have a metabolism. They can self-assemble and they can organize. They insist that it's not life, that it's not biological, and that it can't reproduce. They call it lifelike, and I get that. But remember that my perspective is that when we do create life, it probably will not be a fully sentient artificial intelligence. And we probably will not be eager to call it life, because we'll be using it for our own ends. We'll be creating it and using it up like a resource. which we do for other life forms, but I think it says something. Sorry. But it says something different philosophically to create a life form which exists for your purpose. I believe no living thing exists for the purpose of another. You know what I mean? Getting back to the actual thing that was created, they say that in the future they will be able to have them move to light or food, or move away from the same kind of basic stimulus. Again, I don't know if that's the description of a mechanism, but I defer to the engineers who make it, even when they describe its self-evolutionary properties. Like, it's not alive though. The non-horrifying implications are for DNA and RNA protein recognition and replacement, so they can do very specialized work on that kind of level by simply using similar types of replication and I want to say pattern recognition processes. Anyway, you guys may not know about this, but Terry and I did an aborted project called Nakatomi Dungeon. We were going to make movies. We're going to take movies and adapt them into modules for RPG systems. The inaugural episode was obviously turning the original Die Hard film into a Dungeons and Dragons module. The final form was a bunch of adventurers in a recently liberated dwarven tower. The tower joined the ceiling of a massive cavern with the bed of a lava river. The tower would be taken over by a team of powerful drow, and the players would have to recover their gear, save the archaeology team, and beat the drow to the vault, while an incompetent team of explosion-happy dwarven soldiers tried to blast their way in. The adventure ends with a boss fight on a melting tower floating sideways and melting into a river of lava. In the process, we discuss how Die Hard is actually a few scenes shy of an actual horror movie. Where a team of mostly innocent thieves are picked off one by one by a barefoot monster. I kind of wanted to see the 2016 film Don't Breathe, about stupid thieves who break into the house of a blind dude who retired from special forces to pursue a career in murder house maintenance. I was thinking about something like that. A cooperative game against John McClane makes more sense, and gaming company USAopoly thought the same thing when they got the license to make a Die Hard board game. It's a one versus many, and while it looks like they lean heavily on the visual symbols of the movie and the knowable phrases and events, I'm excited because I like it when people have had the same idea I've had, and it's a good concept is what I'm saying. It's called Die Hard Nakatomi Heist, and it should launch this spring, and there's like 6 hours left of spring. It's ending soon. And finally, I wanted to discuss the fan-funded Deep Space Nine documentary. I believe it is called What We Leave Behind. There will be a public showing on May 13th, and I believe it'll be streaming online after that. I don't know the exact site. So news of it trickled out in the very small Star Trek social media community. So did a picture of showrunner Ira Stephen Bear wearing a "Nobody Knows I'm a Lesbian" shirt. Some folks have been upset. I don't know if Bear is married, and I have no idea if he identifies as a woman who is into other women, but it seems like new information. Most folks have gone with the reasonable assumption that Bear is making a joke off of intentionally or indifferently misunderstanding the trans and homosexual identities. As a successful Hollywood producer, whose greatest life adversity is probably dyeing his own beard blue, it feels like a move that gives us an indication of the character of a person who's only known to us previously as a guy who made a good show 20 years ago. So naturally, in defense of him, someone credited him with introducing liberal ideology to the West through Deep Space Nine, and I, as a guy who has made a hobby of dissecting Star Trek and examining its backed-up colon with the same unfeeling detail I afford its beautiful idealistic eyes and still pure heart, I feel that the characterization of Deep Space Nine as a liberal show is very, very, very wrong, especially when stacked up next to the other Star Trek shows. It is the most conservative-friendly Star Trek. Now, I want to preface this first by saying that I appreciate that the original series, for example, let's see if I can just slap a garden down here and get this done, is obviously very conservative given its time, but the original Star Trek also believed in conservative values. it said, hey, look, these are the good parts of conservative values. These are the bad part. These are the good parts of liberal values. And we can take the best of both worlds, and we can understand what is good. And it's not super complicated to understand that two political axes can exist with this tension of difference between them and still be legitimate ideologies, and we can understand the good in both of them. Obviously, it leans a very far left, but I appreciate whenever Star Trek can do that, and I think it should do that more than perhaps Voyager did. Yeah, this is good. This yeah, it's like 3, 4. No, it's good. It's because like 5 across, and then it's right. So yeah, just cut away, and we are gonna do this later. We are gonna make the farm later. I thought I could eyeball it, and then I looked at my plans, and I think the problem is pretty big. So I think there should be some reconciliation, but in terms of embracing the worst conservative views, of just saying, hey, look, these are conservative views, therefore they must have merit, instead of going, these are conservative views, what are their merits? I feel like DS9 misses slightly there. So, right. But I like, look, the original series declare that the gender binary is universal and that Jesus Christ visited the Roman planet. So I'm not going to pretend like DS9 is somehow winning this contest without a fight. I just think that generally the humanist perspectives of the original series override specific instances of culture that was contemporary to the show, overriding the larger principles. Perhaps, I can't say implicit ideas whenever they turn around and literally the end of the Roman planet episode is her going, nope, it's not sun worship, it's son of God worship. He's like, yes, of course. God is everywhere. Anyway, like the first and easiest one is the affection given to Ferengi culture. The Ferengi go from like these simple capitalist dudes to a nuanced people who are basically just human and yoked to a modern welfare state normalcy. So maybe that's a wash, but the series refuses to reconcile greed with the concept of the great material continuum, which is the notion that there's too much of things somewhere, not enough of them elsewhere, and the transfer of inequalities of needs and desires and supplies and demands is a river which connects us all. And they go, yeah, but also greed is good as like a basic bedrock foundation of our people. And I feel like that needs to be reconciled. They have a unionless society, and they have opportunities for the lower classes. I'm not saying that opportunities for the lower classes never existed in industrialized societies before evolutions, but it was a very unequal society. And and like, again, the notion that the Ferengi themselves would, while they seem to have concepts of unions, I can't quite remember the details of that episode of Ferengi Bar Association. For a society which has no organized labor, no pushback from any sector on that, because everyone thinks they're going to get rich, they seem to have an incredible amount of social mobility, which I think needs to be reconciled. Like, how do these guys have such a freewheeling middle class and absolutely no organized labor force, especially given the fact that the Ferengi are so selfish, so short-sighted. The Ferengi seem entirely too driven by the principle of selfishness to operate on the principle of self-restraint. These are people who shudder at the idea of taxes, and yet they have this incredibly strong central government system and financial system. The Grand Nagus isn't just a strong executive. He is... his position seems to be hereditary. He seems to have power completely unrelated to that of a shareholder within a company. He seems to be a traditional federal style president or even a monarch of some kind, which is baffling, because then you would say, well, look, if the position of negus is hereditary, then, which it seems to be, then how is all of the wealth not hereditary? How is it not hoovered up by government? I think that systemically that is an obvious systemic flaw that doesn't require an economics degree or an economics 101 class to look at and say, yeah, wait, how is the negus just not a position for life? How is heirship in question? How does, if the negus can consistently be so old as to be unfit for office, but still in position by virtue of being able to convince the I forget what it's called, the Senate of the Ferengi, which should be a board. I think it is a board. Anyway, I have many questions. And then you have the FCA, which can slap a thing up on a thing and go, oh, you violated a contract? We're going to take all your property and auction it off. How does that even work? Who enforces that? Ferengi seem to just give up on their possessions just because the FCA says so. That's interesting. The complete lack of, in such an economic system, a legal apparatus, and as much as I am disdainful of mentioning it, an enforcement apparatus is baffling to me. I just don't. Oh shit. Okay. I just don't see how the Ferengi society even operates to the extent that we see it. And again, we never see Kaleon lawyers, so maybe I am picking nits. I'll admit to that. At one point we see Grand Negus Zek, and he goes, "Hey, I'm going to introduce these reforms," and Quark is like, "Okay, they're going to murder us and him." And then, like a couple years later, Zek is like, "No, I did those reforms. It was fine. Rom, idiot, you now run the Ferengi Alliance," and you're like, how? What? Suddenly they're just cool with it? Quark says they're going to die from it, but now everyone's just fine? How does that work? And that's to make them a welfare state, a modern welfare state, to give rights to women. And it is a baffling change of character, and I feel that it's just done so we can say, yeah, they're all about capitalism and greed is good, blah blah blah. But they're still good people. They're still just people. I think it's bad for the Ferengi as a culture, and I think it's definitely a conservative take on trying to take this conservative, woman-hating race and not just make them deeper, but to also make them good. Religion, Bajoran religion. I think that how Deep Space Nine handles religion is good. I think it is a little flattering, like unnecessarily flattering, because the Bajoran religion is a version of religion which is very easy. It never demands a certain kind of unsavoriness. Bajoran religion has all of the substance of chicken soup for the soul. Inspiring but undemanding. If Bajoran religion demanded that, say, joined Trill were unclean and not allowed at religious festivals, even something as minor as that, some honest reconciliation of Bajoran religion with Federation materialism might have been necessary, might have been seen. We do get Bajoran xenophobia in politics, hijacking religion as a justification, and warning taken, for what it's worth. It just doesn't reconcile religion with a secular society, though. In fact, it's based on the core assumption that religion has an undemanding simplicity to it. Religion is just a thing that you have. It's a fucking henna tattoo, and religion is not a henna tattoo. It says that as a rule, religion can live with secularism, and I'm not debating that. I'm not saying that that's not true. What I'm saying is that it assumes it, and I don't think that if you're going to talk responsibly about religion as it exists on Earth through the metaphor of an alien religion that you get to make up, it's insulting to both secular and religious beliefs to write off those conflicts. Or to say that they're all the product of pure and virtuous religion being hijacked by politics and xenophobia and hatred. Religious beliefs are not sriracha sauce, which can be added or not added or given up entirely or tried out because all of your friends are doing it. As someone who grew up in a very religious culture, Religion is the fate of your eternal fucking soul and shouldn't take a backseat to anything. As a confirmed atheist, the shape of society isn't so much as to bend to accommodate absolute moral authority that speaks only them. It shouldn't. Next point, everything about Section 31, because Jesus Christ, I can't get to it all. I'm gonna have to punch out. I am out of time. I'm gonna have to catch you later.